everything is where it needs to be. You know how we start that show, solo broadcasting. So one day I'll probably, have a little bit of a tech crew to help me out. That would be cool. But we'll see what happens. Alright, eventually I'll be quicker at doing all this. Put it over here so we don't have an echo. Have the chat brought up too. Come on. Alright, so I always really try not to do the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but you see how I snuck it in there on you? Alright, it sounds like it's going good there. Bring up the creator dashboard and we'll get cooking. So if you see up in the title there, we don't have a main dish that we're preparing today. We're going to be doing more of side dishes. We got glazed onions. I got some zucchini that we're going to see if it's still good in the fridge, and also some asparagus. I got really worried about this asparagus because as I find out when you buy it from the store, I was browsing through the cookbook and you're supposed to use it within 1 or 2 days. And I'm like, who knew? I'll probably start getting that frozen. See what my options are for frozen asparagus. I want to make sure I have the chat up, not full. Not the whole thing. Come on, Stream Manager. There we go. Okay, let's bust out the apron like we always do. Finally finished up Food Wars anime. I really want to steal his move where he busts off the apron, but you can't get that flowing. Can't get that flowiness or that excitement. That's where I would make my tech workers cringe. I'm like, can you make that in real life? Anywho. Let's see. Here's how I want to do this. I actually want this to be the recipe book. So I go to my gallery. And it's upside down. And it's calling for salad oil. That's interesting. And how we're going to start in the kitchen is we're going to be washing our hands. Nice. 20 seconds going on there. Thank you all for joining me tonight on the show. This will be more of a laid back. I'll do my best to fill the void. Haven't been so keen on putting on background music. Yeah, I'm sure we could figure something out in a little bit. Let me just get myself all oriented real quick. Let's go ahead and get the music. I know what I want to do for the music. I know exactly what I want to do. Bring it up on over here real quick. We'll have to do another sound check. Unfortunately, real quick, just to make sure that's coming through okay. See how loud that is in comparative to the voice. Happy Friday though, everyone. We made it. World's hasn't blown up yet. I need to be better at pressing buttons. Yeah, there we are. I want to actually see the channel. There we go. All right, let's see how loud this is. Oh, I still don't have the music actually going. Ooh, sorry about the echo. This is how I think. Why isn't that music coming through? Ooh, that's why. Yeah, we did get the music coming in a lot louder. There we go. I can even make it quieter than that, I bet. And we'll go over here, put that to 71. One more time. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna work with that. I don't even know if it's gonna bring up any advertisements. Okay, finally, the cooking part. Yay, glazed onions. That's what I really wanted to start out with. But we're gonna go over to the fridge. I'm gonna start pulling out the stuff that I need to get rid of, because sometimes cooking isn't about making the delicious meal. Sometimes it's like, I really don't want this food to go in the garbage. So the stuff that I have for that right now is, I got the celery I need to use. Ooh, that zucchini is way far gone. We're not using the zucchini. And no to the asparagus either. The asparagus went too long. So we'll update that stream title. What would you call, I say, the refuse? Peppers are still in good shape. Let's take a look at this celery, what we're looking at here. The asparagus, yeah, 2 days after you buy asparagus is when you want to use it. And I was like, oh no, I haven't looked at that asparagus in a week. I heard this really good tip one time that was talking about if you have a hard time remembering what is in your fridge, that if you have a hard time, there we go, have a hard time remembering what's in your fridge, you can take a picture and put it on your refrigerator, of the inside of your refrigerator. And I think an easy way, another easy way is to take a picture on your phone, and you can even set that as your wallpaper background if you're like really trying to figure out, like if you're having really problems eating, like getting motivated to get in the kitchen and looking at what you have, just knowing what you have. So yeah, that was a pretty cool idea that I heard one time. And I'm just expecting these, they're a little bit soft, they're not as crisp. The celery is in pretty good condition. I would say the worst condition right here is the broccoli. We might be able to save that let's see what we want to make today. I think we have kind of like a nice selection to kind of get like a cool stir fry going. Let's see if I have that stuff in, if I have any stir fry noodle left. I'm really trying, I got the kitchen finally organized in a really good place, so I'm trying to just let people kind of see like how I have things organized these days as all the like pasta comes falling over. But I got pastas up here, I got more breakfast cereals, and then the pasta sauces up top, kind of more of the snacks down at the bottom, the rices, beans, veggie mix, lentils, and then this is more like taco seasonings, au jus mixes, tuna salads, and then kind of like picnicky red stuffs on the bottom, potatoes, various bags, aluminum foils, granolas and rices. Most of my rices are back here. Yeah, let's see what else. What else? Ah, yes, the stir fry noodles. I might have used up all the rest of that stir fry noodle already. Now it looks like I did. I think we're gonna finally showing off the keyboard. I think we're looking at some thin spaghetti here. I bet I have some artichoke hearts too. Where would I keep the artichoke hearts? Might as well. Do I want to get carrots into this game? Yeah, we got baby carrots. Alright, baby carrots. What else do we want? Oh yeah, I forgot that there was already music. Also, thank you so much, Bitch Bucky, for being spot on with the music. I forgot to thank you for that. I always really appreciate people letting the streamers know when there is sound issues happening. And I actually can turn the microphone just slightly down. Alright. So this is looking pretty good. I have a little bit of peanut oil too. Can use the rest of that peanut oil. Looking pretty good, I'd say. And then anything that I don't use, I'll go ahead, like I'll make like a stir fry. I think is what I'm going to go for. Just kind of like a noodle dish. I don't know if I'll necessarily like call it a stir fry, but that's basically what it is. I'm kind of just winging a few ingredients together. This is kind of like the chili episode that I did just last week, and I really wish I had the music for that because you could have the chili hour. Anywho, and again, this is where I'm trying to use all the produce because it's really helpful when you have the right combination of vegetables, ingredients, and you can make the dish out of the recipe book. If you make a main dish, you can make 4 or 6 servings, and then I'll show you, for example, back in the refrigerator here, is that I already have a main side still left over of some macaroni, some baked macaroni cheese. So another thing that I wanted to point out that you could do with this produce here is instead of making like trying to combine all these ingredients together. You can actually just cook them entirely individually. Like there's about 2 more servings of that baked macaroni and cheese you could have one night. You could steam this broccoli with some nice amount of salt and pepper. You could take this zucchini, again, you could steam it, or what I do is actually just cut this in about 1/4-inch slices with a little bit of olive oil and or peanut oil or sunflower oil or avocado oil, not really picky. Put it on a cookie sheet, but not the cookie sheet that you use to cook cookies. Just put it on a flat sheet, stick it in the oven. I would imagine like 375, maybe 425 for about 15 minutes, give or take. Go ahead and look up a recipe for that. So you can also just use them as individually, and that's great. One of the things I've been laughing kind of like with in the video games is that there's this video game Forager that I played, and it's not quite like Harvest Moon, but it's another independently made game. And what I laughed is that so it's a farming game, so you can just eat the food out in the field. In this game, the mechanic is that you'll run out of energy. You don't sleep, you'll just run out of energy, so you have to eat food to replenish energy. And I always laughed about that little micro lesson I learned. I was like, oh, if I eat all these fruits individually, it only gives me so much health. But if I eat these, if I combine them, if I go to combine them, they are more nutritious for me. They restore more of my energy. And I kind of was laughing about just how kind of true that is. And if you think about like how you're getting different nutrients that you need for your body when you combine, multiple ingredients instead of having it by itself, it's funny how it's just like, video games do give you life tips. Hey, Bish Bucky, thank you so much for checking out the stream. Thank you so much. It's great to see you. Thanks for dropping by. I'll be sure to check out your stream too when I can. You've been broadcasting, I think, for me, 9 p.m.-ish, and it's a great time for me in the evenings because I'm usually doing some laundry work, so I'll be able to tune into you soon, I'm sure of it. Thank you so much. All right. So right now what I'm going to be doing is taking care of the celery. I'm going to give it a nice rinse here. Oh, right. I had a little bit of extra to go on the cleaning of the kitchen. I didn't want to, my sink is already it's clean, but it's not as clean as I would like it to be for rinsing out my celery. So I'm trying to get my strainer free and clear over here. Kind of rinse through. I was hand washing all my plastic stuff. I really try not to let stuff like this, my plastic measuring cups and stuff, go through the dishwasher. It's just hard on them. There are types of rubbers and plastics that would take that high heat. For example, there's this kind of cauldron that you have, and this actually you can use to steam vegetables, and it was a nice strainer. This was kind of one of those kitchen tools I went ahead and bought because I thought of it, especially how it collapses like this. It has a variety of uses, but I wouldn't want to have a whole collection of these. This is, I wouldn't, of rubber. I'd rather have the metal because the metal is easier to recycle. Metal is really easy to recycle because you can pick it up with magnets. There's a really popular how our recycling is broken video that came out, and that was I think it was trending 31 on YouTube for a little bit. And that taught me some really cool stuff about how our how the recycling is working in the world right now. Now I'm being like a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Lax, and how I was rinsing that just there. Because I've already used a little bit for another recipe. I already used about half of it, so I already knew I rinsed it out, kind of spreading it. So it was, how you know that you rinsed it enough is there still dirt on it? The answer is no. You've done a pretty good job rinsing it. All right, we're gonna take care of our zucchini here too. And the broccoli. Broccoli, I don't think I've used this head of broccoli. I only got a little bit of broccoli, and it's gotten a little softer than I would have liked. So something that I could have done to keep its crispness is that after, I should look how many days you can keep broccoli. It's probably about using it within a week is my guess. Alright, baby carrots. Oh, you know what? This actually still works out really well because we can actually do a stir fry. I still have some stir fry sauce. Perfect. Okay, so that is what we'll make. That'll be nice. It'll be a nice little noodle dish. I was looking at some recipes. The next direction that we're actually going to kind of go is more in Indian. It's an Indian style, as in Indian the continent, for those that are confused about that or just wondering. I know it's complicated right now here out in the US of A. Brain thought. Where was I going? Ah, yes, the spices are a little bit different. So I usually cook more like Mexican-inspired dishes. Totally lost my train of thought there while I was cutting. Let's see. Ah, yes, the spices. I am so sorry there. The spices. They're a little bit different. They're more curry, but it was a chickpea recipe that I would really like to make. I started kind of running out of ideas about what to cook. And here's just another random tip here. If you're wanting to make this, maybe your cuts here, a little bit more interesting, you can always start just cutting at the diagonal. And it just makes it look like you're cutting from a slightly larger cucumber, or excuse me, zucchini. I'm going to have a little bit more of that coffee in just a second, folks. I'll go ahead and get rid of the nub there. Alright. And I'm actually not too sure if washing baby carrots is necessary. Let's see. For the stir fry, I don't really want to, in this case, I don't really want to have leftovers. So what I'm going to use is the stuff that I prepared. Say, like I only end up using this much of the zucchini and this is left over. I'll just put this in one of my jars and I'll use it for a soup the very next day. Or this will just be my single side. I'll use, like if I just wanted to, like, you can put that out on the pan in the oven. It's a little bit of a waste of electricity. How I'd rather cook it at this point is just use, oh my goodness, this is what I get for not emptying my dishwasher. I just use this guy here. A little bit of salt, pepper, avocado oil is the oil I don't want to use that time. Let's see, this is thin spaghetti. I'm going to look for a little bit of a thicker noodle. See if I just have more like, that's fettuccine. That's angel hair. Okay, I do have some thick spaghetti here. So back in the drawer here, excuse me, back over there in the cupboard, it looks like I'm stockpiling a bunch of pasta, but what it is it's one or two types of pasta. That way you can make that really helps. The pasta will last for about 6 months. So it's really easy to just have it there on the shelf, and then when the other ingredients come in for the right combination, you can have a nice Alfredo dish. You really you have so many options open to you if you just have the pasta available, and it's really easy to have that pasta available to you because of its shelf life. It has a much longer shelf life, and then than the vegetables. And vegetables are what's going to go in and out of season. So you can have the pasta kind of be as the center, and then you have these vegetables. And I'm just trying to, once again, kind of put out a single serving. We're not going to want too many carrots. For this, I was getting excited about my baby carrot count. Okay, and I do think I just want to use about yay much zucchini, but here's the thing is that vegetables are good for you, so I'm going to go ahead and lump that all together anyway. Like, you'll really find, like, one of the complaints I have from people that are like, are so hungry, like they can't get filled from a vegetarian diet, increase the amount of vegetables that you eat. And it's kind of funny how the vegetables, like, you don't need like 7 zucchinis, you just need like the 1 zucchini for the week. And I haven't gone to a nutritionist recently, but I am pretty sure like your doctor would want to date you if they would ask you what your diet is. And they're like, well, do you know what you eat for a week? And then you can say like, yeah, I have about like 3 peppers, 2 zucchinis, about 8 potatoes, like 7 cups of rice a week. And that's the type of information that you can start getting when you're cooking for yourself. You can go ahead and that's the end of that thought. I won't try to like really blow that out of proportion too much. And then I'm going to go ahead and use, since these peppers are so good, I'm going to go ahead and leave, I don't have to use these today. The broccoli and the celery and this is zucchini here is much more important that I use it today. So I'm going to go ahead and save these for a different recipe. And then we're going to really take a look at what this broccoli is doing. So you can see this is like, you want to use this broccoli immediately. If you could get this broccoli, you can see how it's starting to yellow here, but there's no mold. And we're just going to cut it into what is called florets here, which is just flower head. And I guess what I notice about the age of this is it's a little bit more rubbery. It's not crisp anymore. There are things that you should avoid, like older potatoes can be poisonous if they're green and such. So you do need to know, you need to understand that. But I have shown in another one of my videos about like, hey, here's a potato that's just started sprouting. When we peel back the skin, it's still good. I can't quite remember the name of what it's creating that's poisonous in the potato. But when you're using an older potato like that, you just don't cook it with its skin on. The skin is at that point is what's the most compromised. Going back into the layer and just not cooking, not cooking it with the skin. You just have to sacrifice that one component of it. And this is the only piece I'm going to throw away just because about how much this one is particularly yellow around here, and it almost seemed to have reached the stem, where there's still like much more. You can see the color difference. This one is much side by side than perhaps for you. The light might not be catching it too correctly. All right, and then we just have the leftover stock. This is one of those wonderful things to compost, and something that will help your compost is that just giving it a few more rough chops. Great for your compost. It will break down quicker that way, and you're literally already here at the chopping board. Unfortunately for me right now, that has to go into the garbage. Okay. So now I got my vegetables here. We're going to go ahead, start bringing about 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons of peanut sauce. Don't worry everybody, I am still checking out the comments out here. We'll bring it to a 4. And then we'll also be cooking the thick spaghetti here. We'll get another pot for that. And I think we're going to try cooking it like so. I think this will really help. I think it'll be an easy cleanup, I think is what is the words I'm looking for here. Over here on the range. All right. Let's get this oriented a little bit better. Get the pasta. Another cup of water. Try 2 cups of water here. And let's see. I'm trying to do the ratios right for you. I guess I should really have it. Ooh, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it, Captain. It's not tight no more. I guess I should just bring you down a little. Yeah, I'm trying to get the ratio to the vegetables I have. This is 2, maybe 3 servings of vegetables here. I would say it's just 2 servings of vegetables. For me, I'm going to try to make it 1 serving if I could, but unfortunately my diet's just not there yet. But we're going to try to get a good ratio of pasta. I'd say that fits. I want the other part to come with me to lunch. Alright. I haven't tried cooking the long hair pasta. Usually I'll use like a smaller saucepan to cook my pasta in the first place. And I don't use, it's been a while actually since I've used a long hair pasta, and I don't want to bring out the whole big boiler. Man, I really needed to learn the right names for these. Usually when people bust out, they're using like a quarter stock pot. Is that what you would call this? That's the thing. You would bring this out, put in like 8 cups of water, and this 2 cups of water. Like, it's real easy to conserve on this type of stuff. I don't think we're going to be able to use all this celery. I think this celery is going to be the number one. Like, we're going to have some leftovers. So in that case, since I'm going to have some leftovers, I'm going to get right to the bounty of what I want to add to this. And that's going to look. And then I'll be these ends I'm keeping for my soup. And then on the other side, I'm going to really look for the end of the root, because this I will discard. Alright. And then I'm going a little bit bigger on my cut. I'm going more for like closer to a 1/2 inch than I am a 1/4 inch. Just so it can get covered in some sauce. That's all my vegetable for the stir fry there. And then what I'm going to do here as the last step is I try to show these as kind of kitchen tools, but I really like these types of towels because they're not fuzzy. I wish I could remember the name of the type of knit it is. It's very like muslin. And then I'm just patting this. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring up my surface light. And I know my oil is getting close to temperature because it's getting this shimmer to it. It's becoming a little bit more clear. I'm just patting these dry. I'm trying to get out any excess moisture from the rinse, because I'm trying to fry this. I'm not trying to steam it. So if you mix, you're trying to not mix the oil and the water, because you'll get more steam and less fry. Alright. Okay, we'll go ahead and add these vegetables. I went ahead and broke my noodles in half. They're getting loose enough. Go ahead and give that a slight cover. I really want to bring up the heat. I want that to finish cooking, not just sitting in the water. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this up to a 5.5, more like on the medium. All right, let's get back up in the action here. Let's take you close. All right, welcome to the front line. Now we're going to get a nice coating in the oil. Really trying to break up that little bit extra zucchinis here. And then we do have this coming to a boil as well. I put the lid. Safety, if you notice how I'm keeping my handles, make sure I can't accidentally slam this. You're not going to get burned necessarily. The worst burns aren't going to be from touching something. It's going to be from something spilling on you. Okay, this is kind of come up to a boil here. I'm going to give it a little bit of stir, add a little bit of salt to it. I'm going to go ahead and put a timer on for 4 more minutes so I can kind of keep an idea about what this pasta is doing. Then I'm going to leave that alone for a second. Just for a second. I'm going to leave it alone. I want to refer to the back of the stir fry here. So it recommends, the back of the stir fry bottle actually tells you how to make a stir fry. I can still turn this heat down a little bit. Two cups mixed veggies and a 1/3 cup of meat. The meat's optional in a bite-sized pieces. A 1/3 cup stir fry mix. So that's going to be about the rest of this. This might be closer to a 1/2 cup. Let's see, it looks like it's 6 fluid ounces. Oh, hey. That would be, a cup is either 6 or 8 fluid ounces. I'm not perfect, I'm just ballpark. It's great to be in a ballpark. I have a clean grill. So I can just throw my ingredients back in. that sit for a few more minutes. We're gonna see what our pasta is doing here. So something that I don't know about stir fry that you might be able to look up yourself, or maybe you want to throw in the chat, is that I don't know like how soft you're going for the initial noodle. I imagine that you would still, personally, I imagine that you would still want to al dente the pasta, but I don't know if that is correct. You might actually want to cook the pot, because it could be just the opposite. You might want to be trying to make the noodle very soft before it goes into the stir-fried portion. It is one of those things that I do not yet know, and I am peculiar about the sources that I will trust on the internet when it comes to foods that aren't in my local community. I'm much more like rice dishes. There's some casseroles in there that I know, but again, that falls under, for the type of casseroles I've had, it falls more under things that you had with rice. But there's lots of pasta casseroles, potato casseroles that you could have. And then, you know, rice and beans. That's what my family grew up on for a long time. Okay. So that's been going for another 5 minutes. It doesn't actually say that you're supposed to add the noodles in. It just says serve over rice or noodles. Interesting stuff. I did not know that. Which makes this whole idea of stir fry even better, because you can fry up your vegetables one night and you can make your pasta to order. Your pasta is the shorthand of the, or what kind of takes, at that point, excuse me, let me restart. If you already have this prepared with the stir fry sauce, etc., and you're only having to reheat it, you don't have to refry all the vegetables. This is the only thing that you have, the pasta at that point becomes the only ingredient that you have to cook. So the recipe becomes a 7 to 8 minute dish at that point. Really trying to go for it, because anything, this is the end of the line for this jar here. And something you can do is clean, you can't quite see the mess that I made here, but there's some extra sauce getting in. And if you just clean it up right away, I don't think you understand that this part of your stove, this part of your stove can get hot too. So don't let things cook on it. Don't put plastic on it. Try not to keep paper towels close to the burner, because you will set it on fire. Okay, so this is cooked for the other 2 minutes that it's needed to at this point. This is definitely cooked for about closer to 9 minutes. And there's 2 ways I'm going to show you how you can drain this pasta. What I'm going to do at this point to keep the heat and everything, I pulled it off. I can turn the burner off. That will finish everything. So there's 2 ways to go about this. Also, just another nuance thing that I did, instead of putting it on this, when it was just water. I'm now trying to keep that away until I rinse it off, but I'm going to be using it to serve, so waste to rinse it off early. Anywho, so there's kind of two ways that you can go about this. I'm going to get this over to the sink here. Do we got a clear shot at the sink? Yes, we do. Okay. So with this, you can either kind of take the lid and you can kind of drain it that way. I do just recommend getting a strainer. That way you don't have what happened to me just now. And this is, and you're always welcome to save your pasta. Like, don't necessarily do this for a date because they really don't know, like, oh, is that clean? But my sink is relatively clean. And I know it's even clean because I was trying not to use the bottom of it. I know I didn't rinse my vegetables into it. I'm trying not to dirty up my sink, if that makes sense. And I rinsed off the noodles too, so there's nothing to worry about. That's how you can kind of save it for yourself. Just remember that if you're cooking for other people, you can it's okay to call it a loss at that point. Because sometimes, like, you have to understand that when you're cooking for someone else, that they're trusting you, that you're not doing something weird like poisoning them. Like these are all like legitimate concerns that people have. So I really like this type of strainer here. Let's get the excess water out there. Give that a quick rinse. Yeah, I haven't been able to be too fancy today. There's the noodle. And then again, this is kind of, even though I have all the burners off, let's get it back onto the burner situation here. Okay, just another thing is that this can ruin your pots. See, I put it on a burner that was off over here, but this is still hot and it can cause warping, especially right here where it can actually, like, theoretically make contact right in the bottom here, and also heat's getting trapped up there. So again, having your handles move towards the center is what's going to save the day there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give this another stir. We're going to take it back to the cutting board, y'all. Clean up my mess here. So also something that you can do is you reuse, reduce, and recycle. That's the order of how recycling is supposed to work. You're not supposed to, it doesn't work that you can recycle everything. You reduce what you use in the first place that needs recycling or can't be recycled. You reuse what you can, like this paper towel here. And the last step, it's actually the last thing that you're supposed to do is recycle. And it's not recycle your reuses unless that's possible. It's just 3 different steps. First, reduce. Understand that you can reduce the amount of plastics that you're consuming. Then you can reuse. Meaning, if you have glass or a sturdy plastic, reusing a plastic bottle, these are all things on reusing. And then the third is recycling, making sure that it can be reused again. And that's harder to do than you imagine. Don't make it exactly easy for people to recycle. And that's, you know, it is not something that everyone is able to do. It's something like the individual just might not be able to pull this off. But it really starts becoming more important when you have a family of 4 or 5. Like trying to reduce what the family of 4 or 5 is using is going to save you money. It's there's other benefits that come in with applying that thought to your life. Anywho, look at this deliciousness that we made with ingredients that we're most likely going to get thrown away. Came out with a nice little stir fry. Let's see how we did on the taste, as always. I think that's one of the things I didn't always do on the show, is I didn't always have a little nom. I really want to see how this carrot did, to be honest with you. Ooh, come back here, carrot. A little bit of noodle. But people were probably thinking it's hella sus that he doesn't eat his food on stream. And I'm already kind of like a skinny guy in itself. I'm like, woo, I can't have people not thinking I don't eat. So here we go for the first noms. This is a really refreshing way as a vegetarian for me to eat my vegetables, because this is a little bit more out of my ordinary, but I really wanted to bring it in. Because I saw how the same vegetables I would use for the casseroles or soups or just on the single, I'm like, I know all these go into the stir fry. And this is how you guys are all helping me on the stream, is that it's really helping me. Like, I have not had repeats on the show, and this has really helped me like continue to expand my horizons on how to cook. And something I really want to be more vocal about, not to try to have empty promises, is that the cooking, the recipes, the instructions, this should be one of the easiest forms for me to practice in a different language, because I don't need to say anything else, and that will give me, like, I think that's how me as a 29-year-old, who plenty of people are like, might say like, oh, you're too old to ever learn a language. Well, I might never ever become like fluent. I might not be able to think in another language besides English. But I think that being fluent, I heard something really great one time about language, is that don't go for fluency, go for proficiency. Meaning that if you're, people will appreciate that. If you don't have to have it perfect. If you're proficient in the language, like the regular person is going to still think that that's really cool, especially how there's a lot of people that are just totally blowing off learning another language at this point, because they're like, why do I need to do this? I have the translators now. But when you have to like understand what the words are, where the words come from, and you speak it, like you understand more about that, how that culture sees the world. Like I would say that you wouldn't be able to understand the Latinx movement, of why that's important, why people are saying Latinx, if you didn't understand how it's not, what is the grammar word for it? It's not the gender. Yes, it's a very gendered language. So there's feminine and masculine in the language. So there's senora and there's senor. Or no, am I doing this right? Yeah, senora and senor. So that, the being feminine And so you can see like that's understanding that little bit can help you understand the Latinx movement. And that would be and then what you'll start to discover with other languages is that there are words that just don't describe well. Like a German recently was telling me one of basically it means company smoker, but but people in America might not necessarily know like what the idea of a company man is, and that's very much like a guy that's aware of. Um, I've seen it more in produced more in some Japanese cultures. Jujutsu Kaisen is a probably really popular anime right now that has a salary man. Like he straight up says, "I'm a salary man." Um, so there's some really cool translations that you can't just quite understand the nuance of, and that's why there's just a word in another language for it. And especially since people can rely so easily on technology to do the translations for you, it also has never made it easier to kind of like pick up that language. And it's some so I want to I've been interested in bringing that into the cooking show. um, I think that because I could do I would like to be able to do it in English, Spanish, and in French, are the three languages that I'd like to be able to produce in. um, and that would just take a little bit of practice of practicing out the sentences. But it would be a very sterile cooking show. There's no way I'd be able to be like, here's all the different ingredients in the fridge and how you cut the zucchini, how I started the show. Um, but that would change over time because if eventually I'll be able to gather the knowledge of these base things. I'll be able to ask for vegetables and produce, and as a cook, I think this would be just one of the most wonderful things to be able to do, because if I can know the names of the ingredients in multiple languages, I can ask for them, and I can show people what I can make. And food is one of those things that just everyone has to do, and everyone has to eat. And this goes straight into how I want to talk about that I'm not scared about other cooks competing with me, or other cooks saying like, oh, I'm a better chef than you, or look at my accomplishments, because there's too many people in this world. We need more cooks. There's not enough cooks. With the way society works now, there's not enough cooks to feed the people. Like, this is one of the reasons why I really want I do this show to bring the food back home. The food doesn't have to be out there. The food can be stored at home. And I know this is a really big, I know it puts a lot of people in a bad position that live in smaller apartments because they don't have this space. Or this space is really limited. But that's, for example, like they might not have the space to have these three appliances just sitting out. However, what I do try to do on this show is try to be very specific about what type of kitchen equipment you should actually invest in that will be able to produce the most. It's one of the reasons why I've held out on getting a blender, or not one of these, not like a blender for a shake, but a blender for, or excuse me, a mixer. That's the word I'm looking for. A mixer for baked goods, because I still want to. I don't want. I'll get too lazy in the different types of foods I'll try to make, because it's so easy to just. Baking is a whole different category from cooking, and it'd be really lazy of me to just buy a mixer and then just get away for 4 or 5 episodes of being able to be like, ah, yes, here's some different things I use with a mixer when there's so many people that cannot afford that $300, $400 investment. Just to, so I really try to be more practical in the dishes that I'm making. There's a book that I actually think I can look up in a little bit. It'll probably get brought up almost straight away. I want to sit down for a little bit, enjoy the meal, and keep on talking with the chat. Whew, go ahead and take this apron off. I got phone here. Go ahead, bring Boba Fett out onto the scene here. Huh, we don't have any music going. I wonder when that stopped. Oh, hey Amy and Bobby. I just got caught on the sit down. I had a really good show. I think it's a really rewatchable show. I went over just I got the kitchen in a really good place, and really kind of like showing people how to stock their cabinets and stuff, which I think is something that people are really interested. Like, hey, like I want to not have to go to the I want to change the way I shop and stuff, and I'm trying to show people like here's how you really can start knocking down your expenses and to not have food waste. And that's how we got up to this stir fry here, or the stir fry, excuse me. This was all just leftovers that were kind of getting near their end on their expiration in the bottom of the refrigerator, and I took a look at everything that we had, what we couldn't end up using. I think up in the title I still have it saying asparagus and zucchini, but the asparagus ended up being too far gone, so I should have probably updated the stream title. If I wasn't a noob, I might have been able to do that a little bit better. And then just talking a little bit more about what I was just talking about was bringing the cooking back home. And I think when you guys first joined me, Amy and Bobby, I was really talking about like how I went to the cooking industry really I was like, I want to learn how to cook. I want to learn how to cook for people. And then it doesn't quite work, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who are like, if I go work at a restaurant, surely that translates to me being able to cook at home. And I found that I would equate the experience to being a theatrical electrician, because yes, you work with electricity, you might be working with a lot of juice, but it's all in kind of like it's in its own universe. It's already self-contained, meaning that you don't have to, like, you're working with the electrics that were already installed. I don't know what I was making that comparison to anymore. But I do remember that there is a cookbook. That's what I was just talking about. It is a cookbook that is meant for college students or people that need to live off of $1 or so a day. Let me see if I can figure out where I left that. I'm trying on another thing with how we use technology. I'm trying to use my notes on my phone to store stuff down instead of random slips of paper. But then I had the habit of never checking my notes on my phone again. Ah, okay. I think I found it. Comes up relatively on one of those first searches. It is, I believe, Lena, or maybe Leanna Brown. And it says, Eat Well on $4 a Day, Good and Cheap by Miss Brown. Okay. So, and the reason why I was going to bring up this book, again, Good and Cheap by Leanne Brown. Brown. Oh, you know what? That's one of the things I can totally put into the chat for everyone. There we go. And I think there's a podcast I think I was listening to that brought this book to my attention, but it wasn't the Recipe Club. The Recipe Club has been a fun podcast if you're looking for other shows maybe that you can listen on to Spotify. That's been a good, jolly group of people, and they've given me some nice insight, and so I know that they'll give everyone else plenty of insight too. Again, that podcast name was The Recipe Club. So Good and Cheap is a free PDF and is living off of $4 a day, and it's aimed particularly on people that are living off of food stamps. And it is also available in Spanish. Bueno y barato. Now let's see. And it looks like she has another cookbook. From Scratch is a vegetarian cookbook intended for people just becoming comfortable in their own kitchens. Ah, okay. So there's a free PDF for this, or you can buy a print copy for $26.96. It's just a little bit more expensive because it's a smaller publisher. They just print them by the demand instead of having a supply. All right. Yes. So, but Good and Cheap. That's the cookbook that I wanted to direct towards people. That is where I'm going to look in getting a couple of my recipes ideas from in the future. And welcome. We all made it to Friday, everybody. We did it. We got the weekend ahead of us. That means that there's a lot of industry workers that don't get the weekends off. A lot of industry workers have to work on the weekends because those are the busy days. I wonder how it's changed now. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Whew. And man, it's been a real big change not having to work, personally for myself. It's been a big change not having to work weekends anymore. It took a really long time to realize, how, what's the word I'm looking for? Just you kind of being oh, this is why society, why people are okay with society working the way it does, because if you're on a Monday through Friday and then you have the Saturday and then maybe the church Sunday, like there's a routine, like there's a very solid routine. And I think what messes up industry folks the most is that it's they not only do they not get weekends off, but they're usually working all sorts of random hours. It's never consistent. It's it's always like, oh, you're working Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week, and I'm going to have you working next week. We're going to have you work Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then and then look, you get 3 days off, and it's oh boy, yeah, and this is another reason why I would argue that people are really hard workers. I don't think that we have a lazy workforce because people put up with that type of um, scheduling. Like part of me thinks it's because they feel like that type of scheduling is normal. Um, but that again, that almost tangents into we create what is normal. Um, People are really hard workers, and I think it when people I don't like people take so like I think how I'd have to say it is that a lot of habits form to compensate for how hard people work in that industry and how they're not and then it's weird almost to talk about because like you'd think that your managers know that this happens to people and to not do this to them, but how it translates to managers that are scheduling people is like, oh, this person just doesn't want to work, doesn't want a job anymore. And I would argue to them, I'm like, you're working them to death. Like this isn't um, like without working them to death. It's just like this whole like you're not giving them consistency. Um, if someone is able to work with an inconsistent schedule at a restaurant, it's probably because they have a consistent schedule outside of it. And I mean, when a person doesn't on the line doesn't turn to vaping or smoking or drinking. And I'm not trying to habit shame people on these things. It's just it is social because so many people do have these habits in the industry. I don't want to. I know people like are conscious of working on themselves, and maybe they're taking the step to vaping, for example, to quitting the smoking. Everyone has their. It's not a linear line. Everyone has their own path that they're working. But if you're not involved in the drinking and the smoking in the first place, like going into the kitchen environment can really expose you to that. Now you can avoid this. Um, you can look for kitchens that are smoke-free kitchens. Um, I'd be interested in working in kitchens like that because I think the head chef or the manager um, would care more about their their employees' lives, and I think and it took me a really long time to be able to run into a good head chef, and I really that there's a couple chefs, business owners I have the most respect for, and I wish I could remember their names better. Um, but they in so little time for a lot of these people they instilled so much practicality about how a kitchen is supposed to be run. Like you don't have like something I'm very I try when I talk about these things. Something I like to be vocal about is that there doesn't need to be a ton of yelling in the kitchen. Like I think that comes, we can talk about Gordon Ramsay for a minute. With that, and people like see this really fiery tempered fellow, um, kind of like Steve Jobs. Lots of people try to emulate how Steve Jobs ran his company, but they don't understand. Um, they don't bring the new. There's more nuance to it. Particularly like in Gordon Ramsay's case, I heard a great story that really like kind of solidified my opinion about him, where he had this kitchen staff was working at a restaurant. It wasn't his restaurant, and how I heard this story go is that he got the entire kitchen staff to quit with him, and they started their own restaurant. And so it wasn't just Gordon Ramsay's fiery temper. Like these other employees, like had enough faith in his abilities to run the kitchen that they followed him for that. So just translating that to like yelling at people and telling them that they're stupid and that this chicken's so raw it's going to cross the road doesn't do any help. And for the younger generation, like we already got yelled at our parents enough because we went through that awkward phase where parents were being told not to beat their kids anymore, so they were just, emotionally, so there was a lot more emotional abuse, or just straight yelling and fear mongering. So we really don't, and maybe as a boss, maybe that happened to you yourself. And so, but for younger generations, we just don't respond well to that. Um, like some people, and don't get me wrong, some people can work through it, but they're not really going to respect you for it. Like if that is smoking weed being your dominant personality trait, it's just it's immature. It's not well-rounded. Anywho, yeah, I just wanted to bring up some industry, and my heart goes out to anyone still working in the industries, especially with restaurants opening, closing, and then just it seems, and just with a lot of these restaurants, how replaceable that you can feel. Yeah, it's and how hard it is on your body. Um, and then also like those environments, like I feel a cramped kitchen. Like we're not exactly sure what makes any. I'm not specifying one virus, but we don't know what is the best conditions for a virus to thrive. And I worry sometimes that it's like kitchens, because there's a lot like I talk all the time just on the show here about how when you're cooking for your family, really be sure to wash your hands, because it's the people cooking that can get everyone else sick. And speaking again to, like, if I can talk again back to my generation and younger generations, is that like it's okay to take the time to be sanitary. Like I know people are still apologizing for everything. Maybe that's something that we're working on. But taking the 20 seconds to rub some hand sanitizer on your hands, just because maybe you're touching your eyes or your face, or maybe you're having a good ball scratch, like please use some hand sanitizers. Like be comfortable, but yeesh, wash your hands. No one's gonna get mad at you, or no one should get mad at you for being sanitary at work. Yep, I have a bite over my food over that one. I gotta get to work here soon too. It's been a lot of fun chatting with everyone today. the music stops, so hopefully you don't hear too loud of me slurping or whatnot. But yes, you gotta make sure that you eat a bit of the food on the cooking show at least. Oh, only 7:30. Only 7:30. There's a whole half hour more that I could go. Yeah, I got a lot of talking to me today. Like I said, um, I guess kind of talking into the vegetarian diet. Let's see, when did that really come in? 2016. So I've been a vegetarian for about 4 years at this point. And something I was talking a bit kind of on is it I wanted to say the LG community, but I don't know if that's not being inclusive, but because it's really long-handed to say what it is. But if I was writing that out in a text, I would totally say the whole thing. But it's a real mouthful, and it's not because I don't want to include anyone, but it's just like that has become a mouthful. Like, and sometimes I'll be honest, like I can't remember the order that we have it in because I know that's important too. If I typed it out more, like if I see it, it's like trying to figure out how a word is spelled in your head, and you have to write it out, and it's like, oh no, that's wrong. It's kind of like that. Anywho, brain. I was talking about something else. Ah, yes. I wanted to bring up the LG community, but why? Ah, yes, because I was about to talk about how vegetarianism for 4 years, and something that I was explaining. I got to meet an Australian, and they ended up they are uh, a trans Australian. Really cool to meet. Um, Wonderful fellow. And where was I going with? Oh yeah, we had a little bit of talking. I told him, I was like, yeah, I am a vegetarian, but just with when I interact with society, there still might be situations where I think it's appropriate to have meat. Like if I went over to your grandma's house and she made something, like she didn't know who I was, she just knew like if I'm going over to your grandma's house, I probably have a closer relationship, or it's community's important. So don't disrespect grandma. Um, like especially since you think older generations too. Um, there's still people that lived a life, and there's people today that lived a life is that you eat what has been put in front of you. Like this is all we have. Like um, this is it. Like, and that was really drilled into them. So you know they might not be able to help but be a little bit insulted. Like yeah, they can understand and stuff. Like oh, they're a vegetarian, they're not gonna eat. You can. What's gonna happen if you eat meat living a vegetarian diet is that you might have a little bit of trouble digesting it on the other end, um, but mostly what's going to happen is that you just need to know that you might get really sleepy. You're going to get that protein. um, this is again something that I really want to clarify more because I reference it every once in a while. But I talk about when you have meat, it has some sort of enzyme or protein that your or that your stomach communicates with your brain to be like, oh hey, I'm full. So if it's meat or fat, like if you have some refried beans that still have the lard in it, this could it will almost feel like you're getting sick to the stomach, but it's not actually you getting sick to your stomach. It's your body, it's your stomach telling you that you're full. like because um, if how I believe that people eat more naturally is that animals come into season just like fruits and vegetables do. Like there's if you rabbit is a really good example of when you should and shouldn't eat a rabbit. Like there's a season to hunt rabbits. Um, I know people it might a lot of vegetarians or vegans might not understand that because they're really removed from the hunter society. And there's a lot of people in the hunter society that have mad respect for nature. And there's a lot of hunters that actually hunt to keep the ecosystem in balance. Like there's plenty of predator, there's invasive species aren't just fishes and reptiles. They can be birds, kangaroos, a variety of animals. It just depends on where you are in the world. Um, and I was talking to this Australian, and I was explaining to him these types of things about like if buffalo meat, if someone is another one where I would totally be like put my vegetarian down on the side of the table. Um, and being like, thank you very much for preparing this. Um, and just pray over your food at that point if you really have to, you know. Um, and when I was telling him like kind of like these things, I'm like, but that's like a mouthful. That's my whole life story to like kind of put in on how I'll live. It's almost kind of personal at that point, and they made the understanding. They're like, wow, I've always been able to give people flexibility in their binaries, but I didn't realize that I wasn't giving people that same flexibility in their diets. And it was just it was a really cool moment. Shout out to you, buddy. I'm not gonna call you by name, but we got some good Overwatch going. So thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of my life. I hope to see you around for some other games too. Oh boy, let's see. And then something else, you want to know. I know people. You want to know who I am a little bit better. Um, is that on? I know big questions are like, well, how do you feel about the LGBTQ community? And I think, that these people are not threats to anyone's way of life, and I think it's so important to allow these people to flourish because we have so much to learn from this community of people. Uh, they like any way you break it down, like there's so much to learn about ourselves by learning about what this community has learned about themselves. Um, uh, People are really um, whipping, say, the education system in America right now. So if we can grasp the idea that we are like a horny people, like I'm not saying that we have to be overly sexualized, but I think that us as a society are just like really sexually repressed, and that and it's because of what we were indoctrinated into. And this goes back again about we create what the normal is. And I think people are better understanding that um, there's extremes. Like people are worried about extremes, except what's good to note is that extremes are not the norm. They are the extreme. If they weren't the extreme, there would be something past it. There would be someone that could be worse than this. But no, this person took something all as far as they could, and and to be like frank, so no one is like, um, oh, I did say it's funny that I did put this under family friendly. This is entirely family friendly though. Like this is just who we are as people, society, community. Like we're not, and it's family friendly too because people like get feared mongered into saying like don't talk to strangers, um, when that doesn't that doesn't that doesn't solve the problem. In fact, that is putting blame on to the child for them getting themselves into a situation when they run into a predator, because you put it onto that kid to not talk to strangers instead of the adults doing the work to actually make a safe environment for that child, and to be like continuing to be very clear the people that come from um, the LGBTQ community are really aware of the traumas that can happen to a kid. That community is not there to prey on children. They're there to protect children because so many of them didn't have a comfortable life growing up. They want to heal that trauma. They're powerless to be able to heal, uh, to undo what is done in the past. But they can change how society works. And so, this is where, if you're looking for churches to go to, like if you're trying to figure out, like, especially if you fall more on, say, maybe the spiritual, like you just don't want to, maybe um, there's something that, like, you saw maybe the bad end of Christianity. Um, go look for a church that has multiple practices combined into it. They had usually there. I've seen there's some in like Seattle, Washington. Um, my college, when I was going there, actually took us there, and it had really big windows, very beautiful church, and each one of the windows had a different practice. And it was wonderful to see. Like it had at least 27 different religions had to be, represented in this community. And it's not like, it's kind of like, to give people an idea, if this is like too far removed from what you've seen, think about like just different Christian sects, if you can say that, like um, Baptist, or Latter Day Saints, or Catholicism would be like another kind of branch off of this. So, in multiple religions, look for a church that does that, and then also there was someone that I saw on a TikTok actually that is part of the LGBTQ community, and they took it one step further. They saw this like all welcome, inclusive community, and but they wanted to ask for affirmation. Like, do you affirm the LGBTQ community? Like, it's great that all are welcome and everything, but getting that affirmation for that, um, that that is a wonderful place to start. And I bring this all up not because like I'm trying to push God into people's people's lives. It kind of came up a little bit as a tangent for me, because I said, pray over your food if you have to, um, when you're consuming meat. Just I was trying to give you examples about living life in a good way. Like there's, and this is where I go into like you don't want to gatekeep on like diets. You don't want to be like, oh, you're not really a vegetarian, or oh, you're not really a vegan because you had meat on this day or on that day. But it's you look at why meat is popular and cheese is popular. It is in our society been made convenient for us. It is convenient for us to get. It's filling. It is high in protein. So it's a really convenient dish to just be able to nom down onto a burger. So if you don't have convenience in your life, if you're poor and you don't have convenience in your life, you don't get to choose when you have a fully stocked cabinet. You don't have a choice on necessarily when your next meal is coming, or when you're going to have enough tips to be able to eat. You're going to buy the convenience instead. When you have just enough, you'll be able to buy the convenience. And you have to buy the convenience because you don't have enough time, because you're in a shortage of time. You're poor. You're behind on your bills. You figure out ways to buy time. So that's the struggle. That's why for people that know, like, that's why the gatekeeping of diets is like too posh. Like, no bueno. 10 minutes to go. That was me on my ramblings. But I was going out a bit on the ramblings because one of the other ways I was going to show people, I was talking about it in the show earlier. I was like, you have to be able to trust the people that are putting foods in your body. I'm trying to put, I'm showing you how to make food for people, and if you bring in physics, it's funny to think about these. It's funny to think about, like, can you put love into food? Is that possible? That's the stuff that I like to argue about. I don't like to argue about policies that literally control people's lives. I want to argue about, can you put love into the food? And I want to argue about, like, what's the best, like, what's the best way to take care of yourself? Like, what types of diets are good for us? What type of sociability do we need? These are more interesting questions to have than fighting over policies that dictate people's lives. And then there's sports, or who has the best singing voice? Who's leading the artistic charges these days? Like, what's happening now? I mean, yeah. And with another way I wanted to show that you can trust, like, the recipes and the food is I also have a garden. I only had one episode. I don't think it ever made it. It was probably like my 4th episode. I started this out in September, so we had, the October harvest. So I started in September, so basically my garden was already done. But it's mid-February, so end of March is really when I'm going to be, like, trying to have my starts and stuff. I can take care of vegetables and produce. I have some here in my window even. It's really full of great lessons, like when you're taking care of vegetables. It's been a great form of I've identified with it as a nice understanding of masculine energy. To here's some here's a being, a plant, growing up, and I have to figure out what do you need, and I have to figure out your language, much like a baby. I have to figure out the language, and I nourish you or you die. And it's that is a lot more healthy than trying to do that to another person, like a woman. Like you might not, because if you make a mistake with how a plant's supposed to grow, you see the plant die on you, and you get to learn that I did not do something right. If you try to apply that lesson first to your relationships or um, a whole person, whoever it is, um, that person has a life like that is not in 1 year cycle. So you don't get to see the mistakes that you made if you push that person away, where they're like, I am not growing with you and I have to go away. So that's pretty much the sum of the lesson for it right there. It's that it had been really good to it like fulfilled something that I wanted to do. Like some guy, like what I'm trying to explain is that some guys would try to go into that with the best intentions. Like, hey girl, I really want to, I see you struggling and I really want to help you do better. But a guy isn't always able to do that. But something that'll help you is if you practice doing the same concept just another way. And then you can understand, like you can self-reflect better because you've seen your mistakes happen. You will definitely have a bad year if you grow vegetables. You'll see your mistakes and you'll understand that you're human and that you can make mistakes, and that you'll understand that some mistakes that you can recover from and other mistakes that you can't. And then you can bring that into your relationships. And this is again why I say bring your kids into the kitchen, bring your kids into the life that is actually happening, show them how their food's actually grown and how to appreciate like the marvel that and the technology that food actually is. We have all these computers, gadgets, and gizmods, but if people actually understood, like we have, like people can really understand the magic of reality because we have this amazing technology, but then if we like get to really look at the universe, it's amazing. And then there's a whole universe inside our head, and then we can wonder, where did conscience even come from, or what conscious is, where does conscious reside? Like everyone, so many people talk about I couldn't reach my potential, I didn't reach my potential. That's the conversation that we as a species are having, is like, I want to be able to reach my potential. And if we shift that just slightly to we want to reach our potential, it will become possible. Again, I can bring this all the way circling back to, I'm not scared of other competition with cooks, because every cook is needed. There's billions of people that need to eat well, and we need as many of us as we can, good of us that we can, because if you can put love into the food, love is what the world needs right now. And if we have enough people that believe in that, we might actually be able to do it. Food, like the source, this gets this along with labor rights, our food rights, and lead directly to our water rights. Just getting people to care about their food will help them care about everything else. We have bought it, a lot of us have bought into this convenience, and they're not in the wrong place for doing that. But we're just up against the wall because we don't have enough time, like we were talking about buying the convenience. But a lot of people are unhappy. They don't have enough time for themselves. And we need a lot of time for ourselves after all this. People, like, it doesn't matter what people's opinions are of the state of the world. The matter is that we need to stop the wound from bleeding, stop the hemorrhaging, and then we have to close the wound, and then the healing begins. Anywho, I feel like I'm on a pedestal for some reason, but it was a good night to be able to show people that they can trust me. I'm coming up, I said again, I'm 29 years old, and where my philosophy had come from, why I speak so confidently, is because I really did spend a long time listening. I spent 10 years listening, and 10 years listening. I was very vocal in my younger ages about, like, this is the law, or this is law, and this is how the world needs to work. I was the oldest brother. The oldest of 5, and then the oldest son of 8. And it was during my high school years where I became very reclusive, felt very awkward and weird and such. And then my senior year, thanks to the theater department, I was able to really come out of my shell and really be as true to myself as I had felt in a long time. And then that's where, in acting, that's where I had a lot of, like, I had a lot of self-reflection in that. Like, you act as these other characters, and when you really get into that, I really got into the theater department. It really made me have to, like, start questioning, like, am I feeling my own emotions? Like, what is emotion type of deal? So I was able to have some self-reflection, and then I was able to also pick up some other skills of just like communication and speaking. It helps me give a base, but of how to operate. And then, but then I learned just enough. I learned just enough to realize that I don't know anything. And so, after about 18, I was not trying to be any sort of influencer. There's a few times I tried writing, but specifically on my writing is that I wrote about a controversial topic, and it happened to be a media spin, and I started seeing the types of comments that were coming in, and then I realized that even though I was like, okay, this is a fight that should happen, but I don't want to build my reputation up on these issues. That's like, because in that case it would be, there's lots of issues that I don't have the same stake in, so I shouldn't profit off of it. I don't know. Like, I don't know why that's such a hard concept for some people to understand, but capital is because they're in the capitalist mindset. So, again, this isn't me trying to push, like, oh, we got to end capitalism. It's just explaining, like, why people do, like, seemingly selfish things. It's because, like, oh, no, I'm supposed to make money on this. I'm supposed to go out and be able to turn a profit. I'm not trying to speak ill that it does or it doesn't work. I'm just trying to explain a mindset that comes with it. So in the writing in particular, I was like, no, I don't want to build my reputation up on this. So I just stopped writing publicly. And I was very quiet, and I just observed and I listened to people, and I was lucky enough to be able to go around America. I've never been to I really want to be able to travel the world, but America is so large in itself, especially if you have to include South America. The entire continent, if it worked together, would be amazing. But I wanted to travel across the Americas first. Hey, thanks so much for the hair compliment. I just drying it. You just have to be gentle. The best advice I've heard for taking care of longer hair is when you're drying it, don't ruffle it up so much. Don't comb it when it's wet, and use a t-shirt to dry your hair, and then just understand that it's a fiber, and that when you're using shampoo, you want to massage the scalp, and massaging the scalp is going to help get in blood flow, and that's going to help get the nutrients to the hair follicles. Billy ho! It tastes pretty good. It was all out of leftovers, and it tastes pretty snacky. The carrots are the freshest. I do recommend using still a little bit of a fresher carrot for your stir fry. That way it has that nice crunch. But yeah, some broccoli. This all worked really well. It was stuff that probably only had like 2 or 3 more days to last. And then I had some thick spaghetti. I didn't actually have any stir fry noodles. So I explained earlier in the show, we went over explaining about how I stock the cabinets. And I have a variety of pastas. So I had angel hair, I had thin spaghetti, and then I had this thick spaghetti. So I took that and I broke it in half. And that's what we used today. Oh, yeah, I have been talking so much. I'm always like, I almost want like a fan to have in front of my face when I eat my food, because I'm trying to be polite, because my mom's like, don't talk with your mouth full. But something just, maybe it's weird of me, but I'm not, I guess maybe it's just because I got a bias, because I was like, bitter, cooking on the line, and I was like, all these people needing food piping hot. Like if it's not served hot to them at the table, they send it back. I'm like, you can't even stomach that. It's too hot to eat. So I'm not, something of the quality of food, for me, on a recipe is, does it only taste good when it's hot, or when it is more room temperature, does it still taste good? And that kind of gives me an idea of the leftover value, how well it's going to reheat. But yeah, to sum up the last of that, I spent about 10 years not trying to force my opinion on anybody. Really stuck out of relationships and stuff too. But I got this really great advice from someone that said that you can't always live in the guise of a student. It's great that you learn, but you have to come out and actually speak every once in a while. and I had to like I didn't want to agree with that. I'd rather just be under a rock. I'd rather never be proven wrong a single time in my life. But I'd rather, I understand how good of teacher failure is, and I think I can teach other people that they can be confident um, in being a good person. Just read the Communist Manifesto. What do I do now? Read more books. No, my favorite joke. Oh man, we're like 2 seconds away of someone being like, "Oh, you got a socialist on your hands. You must be thirsty." Nah. Which was kind of funny, because I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one that needed like a really tall glass of water. And then I find out it's like almost a stereotype. So I was like, huh, the more you know. Nah. See, the reason why it sounds so socialist is because I'm talking about, securing your food production, which I, as a farmer, am concerned about securing my water supply, and how food, everyone needs to eat, everyone has to come together at the table. And there's this general like trying to eat healthy. How do you do that? How do you do it sustainably? Sustainably. And then that's where, being sustainable is where you're putting people over profits. You're putting sustainability that'll be around for everybody instead of just making mad profit. But since you did ask, I don't want to just be flippy flammy about what to read next. If you read the Communist Manifesto, there is, because these ideas, so one thing that I've read that I've heard very well, because it's kind of a popular topic, is that people talk about like how communism or socialism hasn't worked in the past, but people that are pushing more of a socialist like ideology very much understand the histories and the failings of what had happened. So, the Communist Manifesto is coming from a place where it didn't end up working. So, what you do next after the reason why you gotta read more is because you need to read newer works, and then you're gonna find how much it entwines with other people's struggles right now with climate change, environmental disasters, where we're getting our food and water from, where people are retreating from famine. Like, it's all becomes really connected real quick. And you can read up to the point where you get up to the modern issues, like issues that are going on currently. But I'm going to give you a guy that has a few speeches on YouTube here that I found very interesting. Except I'm going to have to go to the history. Alright. I know. So hard to find some things some days. I really do want to just show you this person in particular, because it's not even me trying to like push off a socialist propaganda or anything like that. It's just a man talking about like things that happened since the Cuban War, and I think it's a very good, to note historically what has happened. And I can just pull up my friend's little profile here. Come on. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. So close, so close. Ah, yes. Parenti. Never gonna forget his name now. This guy goes on saying there's no such thing as a poor country. There's only such things as exploited countries. And that I put in the YouTube watch for you there. And yeah. 8:13. It's already 8:13. I do need to get my butts to work. So, anyway, that was a nice little easy show. Just wanted to introduce myself a little bit more so people know who's this guy. I wish it could be as simple as cooking for you every day, but there's lots of weirdos out there. So now you know that I'm one of them. Anywho, it's been a great stream. And everything is falling apart on me. I digress. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for putting your energy into people. I'm really sorry about the crash landing here at the end of the stream. And yes, I am going to finish my dinner. I just talked too much to fill the void, you see. It's been wonderful chatting with you all. Now you know a little bit more about me. Now I know a little bit more about you all. So I'll see you next Friday. We'll have another delicious meal to cook. We'll see what's cooking that week, and then the week after that as well. Thank you all so much for joining me. We got plenty of stuff to look forward to. Stay safe this Friday and throughout the weekend. Have a good time working. For all you industry folks, we're all thinking of you.